What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Hope you're all having an amazing day. Now, in today's video, I've got for you a couple of fantastic ProRevenge stories, starting off with this one, in which a normal builder gets massively shafted, for want of a better word, by his boss, and instead of just taking it on the chin, he says, you know what, F this, I'm not having it, and just comes up with the greatest revenge I've ever heard. Brilliant scenes, let's get into it. Revenge of the construction workers. I am a teacher, and when I was younger, I would take summer jobs to supplement my income. One summer, I worked for a bricklayer named Jerry and heard an amazing story. I worked for Jerry in the mid-90s, so the story either happened in the early 90s or in the 80s. Here goes. The setting for the story was a community of small rural towns which had only one brick contractor. Jerry began his career as a bricklayer working for this contractor, a real jerk. Jerk and jerk's son, let's call it, adult working the business with his father. Now, they would harass, belittle, and humiliate all their employees on a regular basis. No work was ever good enough, and employees were told they weren't worth what they were paid. Not only did Jerk mistreat his employees, but he was equally rude to other subcontractors and to the general contractors who hired him. Since he was the only bricklayer in the community, there was literally nothing anyone could do about it. Needless to say, the turnover rate for the brick business was very high. The only person that stuck with Jerk and company was Jerry. Jerry told me that his father had instilled a self-confidence in him that Jerry could do anything he set his mind to, and that he should not evaluate himself according to what others said, but rather by facts. Although Jerry was belittled by Jerk and Son, as were all other employees, Jerry was becoming a very good bricklayer. Jerry knew he was good. The Jerk knew Jerry was good, but the Jerk didn't know that Jerry knew he was good. Not only was Jerry a good bricklayer, he was very respectful to the boss who disrespected him. The Jerk thought that Jerry was a naive pushover who was buying his head games. That would prove to be a huge mistake on his part. One day, Jerry was doing an exceptionally good job of laying brick. Not only was his craftsmanship amazing, he was laying brick at a high rate of speed, so that he was making his boss lots of money. Of course though, Jerk and Son were belittling his work as though he was doing the very opposite. This scenario was being observed by the general contractor of the project. After work that day, the general contractor asked Jerry to stay behind so he could talk to him. As did every other construction worker in the community, the general contractor hated working with the Jerk. The general contractor told Jerry that he had heard Jerk and Son belittling him, and told him that he disagreed with everything Jerk was saying. He asked Jerry if he'd ever considered going into business for himself. Jerry said that he would like to do that someday. The contractor then said that he would loan Jerry the money to buy a mixer, the most expensive piece of equipment needed to start a brick business, if Jerry would indeed start said business. The only hitch was that Jerry would need to pay for the mixer whenever he could, and that he would subcontract under the general contractor. Jerry agreed to those terms and prepared to begin his new venture. Jerry respectfully told Jerk and Son his plans and gave his notice. The two mocked Jerry ruthlessly and laughed him to scorn. The Jerk told Jerry, "You'll be back in 2 months, begging to return to your job. You'll never make it as a subcontractor." 2 months later, rather than collapsing as the Jerk predicted, Jerry was still in business and going strong. 1 year later, Jerry's business was booming, and a drunk Jerk showed up at Jerry's house, begging him to come back to work with Jerk and Son. "Jerry, you're the best employee I ever had." Jerry replied, "Well, why didn't you ever tell me that when I was working for you?" Jerk couldn't answer the question, and Jerry obviously didn't accept the offer for employment. 2 years after beginning his entrepreneurial venture, Jerry heard that Jerk and Son went out of business. Jerry said that he never intended to harm Jerk and Son when he accepted the general contractor's offer. He said that looking back on things, he realized that he had become Jerk's greatest nightmare. I can't say that general contractor intended no harm though. Now, I thought the most amazing thing about this story was how Jerry maintained his self-esteem in spite of all the ridicule. I also gained a respect for Jerry's father, who instilled an unshakable self-confidence in Jerry. Yeah, OP, I completely agree with everything you've just said there. I just don't really understand from like a businessman's perspective, or, you know, a general employer, someone who has a lot of employees who work under him. Why would you ever want to be mean to them or be rude to them or tell them they're worse than they are? Surely the point of a manager is to say to your employees, your workers, "You're doing a great job. Please keep going. You're really helping me in the business, and that's the reason why you're in this job and why I'm paying you money to do the job, because you're good at it." Why would you go the other way and say you're terrible at the job? Surely you're just going to like disincentivize your workers and make them think they're terrible at their job. As a result, then they're either going to leave or just, be less enthusiastic about their work. If I was in a role, or if you were an employee at a company, think about this, guys. Surely you'd want your boss to be supportive and say you're really improving, you're doing amazingly, or in Jerry's case, just be honest and say, look, you're doing fantastic work. We really are happy that you're working for us. Wouldn't that make you feel better about yourself and then work even harder? That's how it would work for me. I don't know about you, but yeah, strange mentality to go with as a boss. Now moving on to our next post, all she had to do was nothing. First of all, some context. I am a professional attorney wrangler for a big legal firm. If you've watched Suits, I'm Donna if she was wound tighter than a child's music box. As a legal admin, I have to keep a tremendous amount of information straight. Every county in every US state has their own court system, their own rules, and their own idiosyncrasies. I have 5 attorneys on my team. Despite the TV shows, it's pretty unusual for a lawyer to have a special secretary all on their own unless they are very important. So 5 is a solid number. Because of Corona, which has taken over the world last year, a secretary that left in January 2020 has not been replaced yet. And I've been babysitting one of the partners, Bingley, in the meantime. It's been a fun learning opportunity, as Bingley works for an entirely different region and type of law than the rest of my team. Also, he has a case where a truck exploded, it was empty, which is awesome. Now on to the story. My manager, Lady Catherine, is the worst. You know the type. She plays favorites, her best loved word is no, she must be involved in every conversation because she's just that important and necessary. We don't get along, because I'm a stubborn know-it-all who's been proven right a few too many times. Highlights include forbidding me from using the same resources other admins had access to on her orders, including backup admins when my workload was too big, and then denying my overtime requests. I literally had no way to do my job some days. It's worth noting that the reason Bingley's secretary left was specifically because of Lady Catherine. In fact, 4 additional admins quit over the year explicitly because of her. Anyway, at this point, I've been working with Bingley for almost a year. It was November 2020, and we'd settled into a pretty good routine. I'd gotten used to filing pleadings in a different state, and no longer needed to double check all my work for new ones. Because law still operates in the Stone Ages, a few US states still require hard copy filing. Anything we want the judge to read has to be sent by actual mail, on actual paper, to arrive in the judge's actual hands. It's a pain. Most states let you file electronically, but whatever. Bingley mostly only has cases in one of the hard copy states. Now, Lady Catherine, in her excessive wisdom, butted in uninvited and instructed me to include a cover letter when mailing a new filing. This confused me, as I'd been filing for almost a year, and no one, including the admin who originally trained me, had ever mentioned a cover letter. Now, I told her this, and she basically told me to suck it up. I called the court admin to make sure I wasn't crazy and that I hadn't ruined a year's worth of filings, and the court admin literally laughed and said to please not include a cover letter ever. So I didn't. Imagine my surprise when Lady Catherine called me, writing me up for insubordination, even knowing the court rules and the judge and the court admin explicitly said to not send a dang letter. She was right because she's always right, and I am, and I quote, a disrespectful little POS, and I'm tired of you. A warning went into my employee file, pending disciplinary measures. The next day, she emailed my team telling them to reduce my score on my yearly review, as she knew I'd been rated too highly for what my abilities really were. It felt to me like she was preparing to fire me by creating a history of poor performance. Well, if you're so tired of me, Madam Manager, I can leave. Within a week of looking, I found a new position. Now, here's the issue. I freaking love my team. This is the best work team I've ever been on. We take each other seriously and we genuinely love each other. A lot of times, admins get pushed around because we don't have fancy degrees, but not here. Calling in to quit, I genuinely cried. I cried a lot. I cried to the point that one of the partners, Bennett, asked if I wanted a counteroffer. I said no because that wouldn't solve anything, but he asked what I meant by that. I told him about the write-up. I told him how Lady Catherine was trying to falsify my employee review after it had been submitted. I told him the reason 5 admins had left. I told him about how I wasn't allowed to even ask for help. At this point, I'd given myself hiccups from weeping, and one of the partners on my team, Gardner, was calling me asking if he and his workload were the reasons I was leaving. So Bennett let me go do other things like day drink and create a shrine out of legal forms. I thought that would be the end of it, until a friend in another office, Charlotte, called me asking what the F I was doing. She doesn't have time to train someone into being the new me, and I was the only admin she actually trusts in my office, so why was I leaving her all alone? I told her, and she told Gardner, and together they plotted. First of all, Charlotte is the manager in her office, so she is on equal footing with Lady Catherine. They also report to the same person. Charlotte called that district manager and told him that Lady Catherine was driving admins away, and that the most recent quitter, me, was the only person who knows how to do a lot of the work on my teams, and my loss was a serious blow. Apparently this is actually true, which is both heartwarming and terrifying. Meanwhile, Gardner called up a fellow partner and told her that his world would collapse in on itself if I left. He would go to the nearest bridge and jump off it, which would be pretty impressive in a landlocked state. They had to do something. I got a call the next day from Bennett, saying they had a counter offer they were really hoping I'd take. Basically, instead of Lady Catherine, I would report directly to Gardner. Lady Catherine would be forbidden from interfering with me without first asking Gardner for his permission. This solved the issue and I got to stay with my team, so I happily accepted. I thought the debacle was over. The debacle was not over. Unbeknownst to me, after looking at the evidence, exit interviews, emails, memos, Bennett put Lady Catherine on a performance improvement plan, and she did not get an end-of-year bonus or raise. Turns out I'd been absolutely correct. Lady Catherine's behaviour and treatment had been the explicit cause that 6 secretaries quit in less than a year. I got a call last week from Charlotte. I figured she wanted to gossip about co-workers or rant about how a shared client is a big old headache, but it was actually to give me a heads up. Lady Catherine had been stripped of her management duties. Now, I no longer had any contact with her, which was great, but it also meant that I hadn't seen her behaviour actually doubling down on the admins unfortunate enough to still be under her thumb. She had missed every single one of the benchmarks on her performance improvement plan. Charlotte had called me to ask my opinion on who should be the new manager, as I know everyone and she was helping cover some things as an outside manager. Now look, I know some of you are thinking, yes, become the manager and fire Lady Catherine, but I'm not a sadist. I want to stay on my team and do what I do best, which is being a cheerfully annoying, respectful little POS. I told her that one of the more senior admins would probably need some guidance, but would be amazing at it. No one has to deal with Lady Catherine anymore. She is now a mere paralegal and not anyone's manager at all. If she just left me alone and not interfered where she wasn't needed, none of this would have happened. All she had to do was nothing. Oh, I really enjoyed that story. Very nice little one. Not too much revenge, but just pretty much just putting someone in their place, right? When they deserved it. What is it with managers in this subreddit, by the way? And managers just not respecting their employees who are, at a lower rank than them, but are still humans. And you're still in the same company. They're still good at their job, man. I don't see why managers have to inherently be disrespectful. Obviously, on this subreddit, it's all about revenge, so we're going to see negative people, a lot of the time, and people getting revenge on them. But still, something about managers and r/ProRevenge that kind of go hand in hand. I don't really know why, but I love the stories. I also really like how, to be fair to OP, she just genuinely wanted to stay in her job with her amazing team. It wasn't a crazy story about how she wanted to, usurp Lady Catherine, steal her job or take her role, fire her, become the boss of the company. Nothing silly like that, just genuinely someone who was really happy at work until they had to deal with this horrible boss. They love everything about it. 99% of the work is amazing. The rest of her team are amazing, apart from this one person who the company soon realized was just a massive problem, was ruining a lot of people's lives and causing a lot of people to quit. Even OP, very close, very nearly. But yeah, just a very simple solution to a very serious problem get rid of that one person, and improve everyone else's lives in a split second. Well done, that company. Anyway, guys, that's going to do it for this one. Probably a little bit more chilled than some of my most recent revenge stories or videos, but I thoroughly enjoyed it nonetheless. Hope you did as well. If you did and you want more from me right away, you can check out my playlist of all my revenge videos right there on screen. If you are new to my channel and you've watched this much of the video without being subscribed, then first of all, what are you bloody doing? And second of all, hit this button, subscribe for daily videos, and I will see you all tomorrow with a brand new one. Have a good one.